let's turn to rugby. 3 minutes past 9. Alan Quinlan, good morning to you.
Morning, lads. How are you?
Flying it, host of the Red 78. Recommend that you head along to wherever it is you download your podcasts and get the latest episode. Alan and Neve talking all things Munster. And let's kick off there, Alan, if you don't mind. We're 9 days out, obviously, from the Wasps game, the Heineken European Cup. And just to give a bit of a recap for anybody who's missed events, even in the last 24 hours, 34 players and staff who went to South Africa, all quarantining here, and 14 more who are still in South Africa. So obviously very depleted numbers across the board. Yesterday, the EPCR allowing Munster some extra time to register their squad and allowing them to dip in beyond their registered names of existing players. And that'll be, that extra number will be made up of those Ireland players. The existing number will be made up of some of the Ireland players who obviously didn't travel to South Africa, who continued to train, plus loads of academy players, and some chat now as well about AIL players getting involved as well. And the other event was that Munster confirmed yesterday that they will fulfil that Wasp game. And as we understand it, Alan, they've 6 backs and they've 3 forwards from the actual squad. So a patch-up job, obviously, will be required. And to jump into it, it looks like they've one front rower in David Kilcoyne. Like, if you look at that, particularly at such a technical, pressurised position, it's going to make things clearly very difficult for Munster to make this anything other than a result management.
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation. I think it's been well documented all week, and really tricky on the players. I think, look, they got caught in a bit of a storm that nobody really saw coming. Hasn't been really mentioned, but these games were supposed to be in Italy. They were all agreed to be in Italy, changed at the last minute. And I think you asked me, Adrian, when that was changed, was it a good thing that these games were in South Africa? And at the time I was thinking yes, because the integrity of the competition and you know, for the South African teams who were on the road for 5-6 weeks, for them to have the ability to play these teams in the URC at home was great. But there was always a danger something like this could happen. Hindsight's a great thing. And Munster stuck in the middle of it. Cardiff, Scarlets, Zebra. You know, Scarlets are in a similar position. They have guys isolating in a hotel in Belfast, and their owner, CEOs come out saying that, you know, they just won't have a squad for their game against Bristol, and Cardiff have to play Toulouse. They're in a similar situation. So it's a complete mess, and I'm glad Munster saying they played a fixture. Part of it kind of fires me up a little bit to say, well, it's real backs to the wall stuff. But the one area that you mentioned there, which is very, very relevant, is the front row situation. And if you have guys who end up playing in that position who are AIL players or academy players, well, there's possibly a safety issue there, and a concern and a worry.
Yeah, and how do you get around that, Quinny? Like, what do you do?
You don't get around it, Adrian. What can you do? You can't get around it, because
they're not going to be academy players, right? So we are talking about AIL here.
Yeah, it's you just hope that there isn't any issues there. It's going to be very difficult, even with the 9 internationals involved. 8 or 9 is it? And you know, when you're patching up with 6 or 7 guys who maybe are very good players, they're below even the academy level. You know, these guys are on the NTS and the squads and stuff like that, and AIL clubs. So you would hope that you can get a few that are strong enough and powerful enough, particularly to be safe in a scrum situation. But it is what it is. You know, ERC have allowed Munster and Cardiff and Scarlets register more players if they need so. And I do understand people have asked about cancelling the fixture and postponing it, but there's no dates there, there's no calendar there, and this is just the world we live in at the moment.
Is it a crazy suggestion to think that they could ask some of the other provinces for anybody who isn't going to play for them in the European tournaments? Is that just a crazy notion?
No, it's not. It's not. They have to look at every eventuality. I think the issue you have with the other provinces giving you players or allowing players to go to you is that they can't play for that province again in the latter stages if they have issues with their injuries and stuff like that and want to re-register players. So it's not crazy, but I don't know where these players are going to come out of. So I think,
do the provinces, just on that question, do the provinces then just have to be selfish and say, sorry lads, we don't know what's coming down the track, look after yourselves?
more or less, yeah, I think they do. And unless they have extraordinary depth in the front row positions, which I don't think anybody has. Of course, you go into dip into their academies, and there might be some guys who are capable and training within their systems that it might work with. But I think it's probably a tad too late now, because whatever situation they found themselves in, they've tried to prepare this week with a group of players who they've trained together, and you can't just lob someone in next week and say, well, play against Wasps the weekend. That's a bit more trickier, unless you have in a specialised position like a tight head or a hooker or something like that. But it would concern me more with the prop situation and worry me a little bit. But it is what it is. They've got to deal with it now, and maybe they might get, after this 10-day quarantine, which is Saturday week, depends on the UK government. The fellas that were at home, the 34 that came home, I don't have the list of who came home, but can they take someone out of that 34 and bring them over to Wasps on Sunday morning, to Coventry on Sunday morning, and put them on the bench or start them? If there's experienced players who are have that experience and quality, well, I'd be trying to stack up the bench if I could, or at least have some involvement with some players. And so it depends. It's a real difficult situation for them. And look, maybe they'll fulfill the fixture and they don't win the game, and that's it. The circumstances are what they are, and it makes it very, very difficult for them going forward in the Champions Cup.
Yeah, one last one for me on it, and it was more on the coaching side, because that's the other part of it. Like, all the coaches are not available either. And listen to Niamh on the podcast during the week, she was saying that Ian Costello has been very positive with the group around and trying to sort of reinforce the fact that, listen, we're all in it and we can make a best fist of it. Could they not get the likes of Paul O'Connell? Could they not tap into some of the, or a few he's on the books anyway, some of that infrastructure to come down and give a dig out for the next 2 weeks?
I thought about that, and I thought that that's something that would happen. I'm sure they've got some help or assistance from somebody. You can't just leave it up to Peter O'Mahony to coach the forwards. I believe he's been brilliant, and moments like this and times like this, you need great leadership, and that's really important. So I'm not sure actually who has been in coaching the forwards, but I'm sure they have something in place there. But yeah, I thought Paul O'Connell, what better man to go in and try and help those guys. So who knows, maybe we'll hear about that, and that he has been in there or somebody's been with them. But look, hopefully they can get themselves in shape, that they're safe anyway. The players who are in South Africa and contracted COVID, that they're all okay. I'm hearing they're all okay. I was in contact there, and they're all fine. Very, very mild symptoms. Hopefully that's if it's the Omicron, that's the way it's going to be with the Omicron, that it is going to be mild symptoms and not as strong. But let's hope they're safe and well. And it is what it is. They've got to deal with it now. And if they lose that game in Wasps, which their backs are completely to the wall, they've got 3 games. Then they're home to Cass, away to Cass, and home to Wasps. Win 3 games, and you will still get out of the group. Even winning 2 games and a couple of losing bonus points, or even winning bonus points, will give some teams a chance of getting into that round of 16. And it's a bit of a crazy draw then. You don't know who you're going to get, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you get in there, you'd hope for some sort of a draw. But I think, look, in all probabilities, and I wouldn't give up on it, and I know they won't, but it's going to be a very, very difficult situation for them in Wasps. But then they've got 3 games that maybe they can regroup and gather themselves and try and win them, and they still might make their own 16 games in the end of March, start of April.
We should talk about Leinster against Connacht tonight. The talk all week has been around Harry Byrne, and maybe I guess a disappointing performance last week. And we were making the point to Ronan O'Gara yesterday that it does feel that there's more of a spotlight on Harry Byrne since getting international minutes. Like, is that something you relate with, this idea that all of a sudden you become an international and any little mistake that you make, there's just a way bigger magnifying glass on everything that you do?
Yeah, for sure. I think he's had a lot of injuries. Very, very talented player, and we often hear it about the players about the second season syndrome. We haven't seen enough of Harry Byrne in the first season where he's come on and played 25 games, and the following season everyone's alert and aware of what he can do, and it makes it more difficult because that happens lots of players, and that defines. It can be really important for the growth as well, dealing with more pressure. And I think the pressure he's experiencing now is media talk, being picked in the Irish squad ahead of Jack Carty for the November series, ahead of his brother. That's great for confidence and self-belief, and for him to work with the Irish coaches for a number of weeks and with that group of players, I think would have been brilliant for him. He made some mistakes last week and forced things a little bit, and that's a bit of a learning curve. Obviously, fly half is not my specialist position. It's a very difficult place to play, and I always had respect for anyone who plays there, because one foot wrong and it affects the whole team, particularly if the forwards produce good ball and the out half kicks it away or kicks it out in the fly. It can cause frustrations, but he's very, very talented, and I'm glad he's picked this week, because what they're doing is, Leo Cullen is really trying to get his mojo back and get a bit of a feel-good situation going within him, that he can get a good performance tonight. Sport doesn't always reward you when you do that, though, because if he goes out tonight and makes mistakes and things go wrong, and Connacht are putting Leinster under massive pressure, and it can have a negative effect. So he's a very, very good player, and he has to be nurtured and minded, and he just needs to run a game. So
are you confident he can get that this season, Alan?
Yes, getting the amount of games, and I listened to your chat with Rog. There is a situation where we've spoken about it so many times on with the Backrows in Ireland, and even with the depth in Leinster, there's 7, 8 kind of Backrows there who are all Irish qualified. Sometimes it doesn't work for you. Jordy Murphy is a couple of years up in Ulster now. He kind of left to start with Ulster to get back in the Irish squad, and hasn't really worked for him, to the point that he's pushed back into an Irish squad and challenged the guys that he was dealing with in Leinster. Look at Munster situation. You've got Ben Healy, Jack Crowley, Jake Flannery, very talented young fly halves, and the idea of sending someone out on loan for a year, I think that's a brilliant idea, and it's something that would be really beneficial for players, not just fly halves, every position. If there is a huge amount of depth, if you're close enough to the team and you feel as a person that you're going to challenge the ones ahead of you, and that you're just waiting for an opportunity, it's a little bit different. Ross Byrne, Harry Byrne, Johnny Sexton's ahead of him. Kieran Frawley can play fly half. Will they get game time? Well, you would hope that he will get game time and get enough of games. He's still very young. He doesn't have to play 20 games a year, but he needs lots of game involvements, and as 10, 15 to try and go to the next level. We haven't just seen consistently enough of Harry Byrne, and we need to see that.
Alan, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads. Thanks
a lot. We'll catch up with Alan again next week. And as I said, you can get his thoughts on all things Munster. Just check out the Red 78 podcast. You are watching OTB AM. It is gone to 9:15 on this Friday morning.